So I'm Miranda McKearney, I'm the founder of Empathy Lab, and we're a new organisation all about trying to spread the importance of empathy, which is our extraordinary human superpower where we can actually get to understand each other. So we founded Empathy Day, which this year is on June the 11th, and we intend to use stories as a major way to fuel people's understanding of each other. There's some really interesting discussions about what empathy actually is, and loads of research going on all over the world about trying to understand how it is that we actually connect to other people's feelings. We define empathy as the ability to feel and understand how somebody else is feeling, and that it's quite different from sympathy. So empathy is really feeling with, and sympathy is a bit kind of more superficial in a way. It's about feeling for somebody without necessarily understanding where somebody is really coming from. And a lot of people ask, what about kindness? And we at Empathy Lab see real kindness coming out of empathy, so that when you've really understood how somebody else is feeling, your kindness will be based on that understanding. So if you were going to make cupcakes for people, it might not be so kind to give cupcakes to somebody with diabetes, for instance. Every year, Empathy Lab produces a collection of books called the Read for Empathy Collection, and they're used a lot in schools and in libraries. And for 2019, we've chosen 30 books for primary schools and people working with primary age children, and the boy at the back of the class was one of them. And it was an absolute shoo-in for several reasons. So we have several criteria for why we would choose a book, and one of them is around helping children understand people who have very different life circumstances than their own. And it seemed to us that Ahmed, and your very subtle portrayal of Ahmed and the journey he goes through and what had happened to his parents, made it just an absolutely brilliant book.
Oh, I'm so glad.
So Onjali, Empathy Lab actually kicked off with us being inspired by the research, which shows that your characters, authors' characters, help us readers understand other people better and make us more sensitive in real life towards other people's feelings. It's just extraordinary. So I'm really fascinated by how you do that, and how, so in The Boy at the Back of the Class, when I read it, I cry because I identify with your characters. You make me care about them, and I'm really interested to know how you do that.
I think the kind of trick, the word trick, is to make sure that the characters are someone you can relate to. So the narrator is someone that's immediately identifiable, because you would have been a schoolgirl. You would have gone to a school, you would have known what it's like to have someone new walk in one day, and be able to understand where it is that they're coming from first. So the narrator is absolutely crucial into making sure that they draw you in as the reader, that you're on their side from page one. And then with regards to Ahmed, who is a foreign character in so many ways, not just to the narrator but to you as the reader, because I think just on a very general basis, we're all hearing about refugees and we're all hearing that word being kind of bandied around, but we don't really know what it means. It doesn't have a human face. And often when it does have a human face, it's a hostile one. It's someone who's dangerous and who's attacking us and coming to take everything away from us. So Ahmed's character is absolutely the opposite to what the narrator is. He's a mystery, he doesn't have a story, but it's someone that you want to know about, just like the narrator. So being able to understand where it is that both of those very kind of pivoting characters are from, and they're very different worlds they've come from, but they're meeting on a common ground, they're meeting on a ground that you'll understand, which is the school, and one that you'll be able to relate to hopefully straight away. So taking the familiar and the unfamiliar and bringing it back to a space where you can completely understand, and in a language that you'll be able to understand as well, is absolutely crucial. So I'm hoping that the Boy at the Back has been able to do that. I'm really glad that it has for you at least.
Yeah. And I'm so interested in what you're going through in order to affect my feelings and therefore to grow my empathy. So if I'm wanting to cry because I care so much about the character, characters and what they're doing. What are you feeling like when you're writing them?
Absolutely the same in so many ways, and I want to convey that care. I want to convey how deeply those characters matter to me. So if I can do that and it's making you feel how I was feeling at that moment, then that's absolutely fantastic. And there are, as I said, I'm an unplanned writer, so things are happening almost as the characters want them to. So their stories are still unknown to me by the time I get to them in many ways. So there's tissues and chocolate on standby for when those really harsh moments do come. But it's absolutely fantastic to be able to use words to convey what it is I'm seeing in these characters, and for you then to read those words and feel them. That's absolutely fantastic.
It's kind of magic, isn't it? Just those squiggles on a page can help us so much.
Absolutely. And most of my favourite books are books that have made me cry, or books that have made me laugh out loud.
Yes.
So those are the moments that I will take away from every book that I close, and those are the moments that will make you remember because you've empathised and you've gone deeper than you maybe would have expected to.
Yeah, and on Empathy Day, one of the big things we're doing is asking everybody to read for empathy because of that scientific research.
Yeah.
Do you have a recommendation for a particular book?
I have to say the very first book that I read that made me completely, just floored me was Black Beauty. So I read Black Beauty. I'd never ever thought about animals. I think I'd read Charlotte's Web straight after Black Beauty, but Black Beauty was my first kind of animal book. And the moment I finished reading it, I ran downstairs. And I was like, Mum, we have to go and help a horse. Like, I don't care where the horses are, I don't care we're in London, we have to go find a horse. She managed to find me a donkey the following Sunday, which was good enough because it looked a bit like a horse.
Your mum sounds great.
I know, she is rather fantastic. But I had to go and help a horse. I wanted to go and help a horse. I remember feeling that very strongly. It was one of the reasons why I joined Greenpeace as a teenager as well. Like, I wanted to go out and find out about animals' rights and things like that. So that was my first kind of impetus as to just how amazing a book could be, and how amazing a book could be in regards to transporting me to a world that I would never have thought about otherwise. Because we don't have horses around, so I don't think about horses. But it made me care about horses.
Yeah.
And the way people treated animals.
So we've been working in 11 schools doing experimental work, and one of them is Kenilworth Primary in Borewood, who have taken refugees as their theme. And they've sent various questions in about Empathy Day, and Riley from Year 5 has a question for you, but for everybody really, on Empathy Day.
Wow.
And it is, people don't realise how unwelcoming some communities are to refugees. We should all try to be more accepting to everybody. How can we make a difference?
What a beautiful question for Riley to ask. It's very simple. That biggest difference is becoming someone's friend and letting them know that you're someone that they can turn to if they need to. And it's okay for the person that you're trying to help to not want that help at first, because they might be feeling all sorts of things, and they might be scared of you, they might be a little bit hesitant as to making a new friend and being worried about moving away again. But don't let that put you off. Just try as much as you can to let them know that you are a safe space for them and that you care about them. That's the biggest thing you can do. Yeah,
pass that on to Riley.
Thank you, Riley.
Lovely.
What an amazing young boy.
Lovely. Yeah. And what is, if you had a message for children on Empathy Day, what would it be?
My message for children on Empathy Day would be, don't be afraid of empathy. I think there is a fear of feeling, and I think there's a fear of putting yourself out there, because you do need to put yourself out there in order to make a friend, in order to understand what someone is going through. So don't be afraid of it, explore, and treat it as a mystery, treat it as a way of making yourself better as well. Because it is about you, it is also about your relationships with the world, and it can really, something really magical can happen, so let it happen.
Being curious.
Yeah, don't be afraid of that curiosity, and don't be afraid of questions. I think we get a lot of children being told, don't ask that, that's a little bit whatever, but those questions are your questions, and maybe you need to rephrase it in a different way or ask in a different time, but don't be afraid to ask those questions, because those questions will lead to answers that might be able to help you feel that empathy.
So for Empathy Day, we hope loads and loads of teachers and librarians will get involved, and we've developed a whole load of resources which are on our website, so please go to that and and lots of downloadable ideas, lots of examples of what other teachers and librarians have done. Everything goes crazy on Twitter on Empathy Day, and we're trying to fill the airwaves with empathy, not hate. How great would that be? So please use the hashtags of Empathy Day and Read for Empathy, and let's really make that message sing about understanding each other better.